Colleen got baptized. And that was also a huge win for the church. And that was a huge, momentous occasion because this church now saw two of their kids that grew up just come back to the church and come
Right.
back to loving God. And I'm continued to be encouraged by both of them, just with the battles that they're fighting, even to this day, how they're fighting for their faith, how they're fighting for their relationship with God, and how they're just loving God on such a deep level.
Welcome back to the Revival podcast. Today, we're joined with David Cole. Good to see you, David, and Ina's
Good to
joining
see
us
you.
too.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, David, it's honestly great that we can have you on today. I know that you've been doing such a great job in Sofia, and I'm excited for everyone to hear just what has been going on there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to share and excited to be here.
And like right now, I know you're on your second year of Revive, and you're in Sofia, and your roommate, who's your roommate?
Yeah. So my roommate is Alex, who was converted last year on Revive and did a podcast not too long ago with you.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Nice.
Great guy. Great guy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we can get right into it. So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, like about your upbringing and how you became a Christian.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me, I mean, my upbringing goes way back to just my parents. My parents were trying to have a child but couldn't. And so they chose to go through adoption. So when I was 11 months old, my parents came to China to adopt me through Hope Worldwide and their adoption program that they had. And then they brought me to the US. And so I grew up in San Antonio, Texas my whole life. My parents then went back to China to adopt another child, and we got my sister. And then a few years later, we had a surprise child, and I have my youngest sister as well. And so the three of us grew up in San Antonio with our parents, and were pretty involved in the church there. Parents had a Bible talk, and growing up, my parents, they taught us what we needed to do, and it was great. And there were always rough patches between the family dynamic, of course. When I got into not university, when I got into high school, that's where a lot of my friends started to study the Bible and also become Christians. And so naturally, as a high school student, my friends are doing it. So naturally, I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's that time of the year. I should do it as well. And so I talked with my teen minister at the time and I said, hey, like, what does it look like to become a disciple? And so I started to study the Bible. And the first time through, it didn't really click for me. And so when I went to summer camp the following year, I got to meet with my friends that had been disciples for a while and ask them, like, what is it that made you make this decision? What made you decide to follow Jesus? And all of them had amazing stories and amazing things that happened. But the underlining thing was, oh, I saw God's love. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, interesting. And so I went back after teen camp. I was on my spiritual high. And I was like, all right, let's do this again. And as I was studying the Bible, my grandmother had passed away, and I was relatively
Mm.
close with her. But what was really cool and what showed me that love was the reaction and the response of the disciples. I remember the teen guys really being there for me and trying to help me out. A lot of them would text me and see how I was doing, see if there was anything that they could do to encourage me. And that's when I saw the love of God. And I was like, wow, if this is what it's like to be loved by God, one, I want to do this for others, but then two, I want more of this as well. And so
Mm.
May 9th of 2012, that's when I became a disciple and I got baptized. And then from there, I was like, I'm ready to just go do everything for God. I wanted to go on mission teams. I wanted to be in like small churches. I wanted to help plan things. Anything God wanted, I was like, let's just go do it. So that's sort of my faith journey.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing, David.
Yeah.
And so you were adopted from China,
Uh huh.
and how old were you?
I was about 11 months old when they got me.
Wow. Okay. And so basically America's all you know.
America and Texas is all I know.
Texas is
So,
all you know. I see you're wearing a Texas
Yes.
t-shirt right now.
yeah, I got to represent.
And your younger sister was also adopted. And then you have a youngest sister.
Yes, and she was a surprise child. My parents say it's my fault because I kept praying and praying for a sister, and so God gave me 2.
Oh, so cool.
And it did that impact basically you being adopted and how your parents raised you, that had a big impact on you becoming a disciple.
I mean, in a way, I mean, I do remember, at my baptism, my dad was sharing, I was first adopted by them, physically, and then on that day, my dad was like, "And today you're gonna be adopted by God and be a part of his family
Mhm.
now. And so you're gonna be a part of this much bigger family." And, that really meant a lot because I'm like, wow, I mean, I do have an amazing family. I love my parents, I love my sisters, and although there's rough patches for sure, being able to have this even bigger family now is so encouraging and so inspiring.
Wow, no, that's incredible. Yeah, that's great just to see the connection between obviously the adoption into your earthly family, but God's brought you into His own family too. Um, yeah, thanks for
Of
sharing, David.
course.
Yeah, this is awesome. I know that you answered a little bit to our next question, but why did you decide to come on Revive?
Yeah, great question. So I heard about Revive when it was first an idea and when it was going to be launched in like 2020. And I heard, yeah, we're going to Croatia for Revive. And I had basically just moved to Dallas and to help with the youth and family there. And I told Dallas, oh, yeah, I plan to be here for at least one full graduating class. So I was heartbroken because I was like, dang it, this is a perfect opportunity to go back to Croatia. But I was like, no, I told Dallas I'd be here. So, amen. I'll pray for the team, keep up from a distance, and maybe something will happen in the future. But then a few years later, one, I got to take a trip to Croatia for 3 months and sort of do a little mission trip. And that was towards the end of my time in Dallas. And I was like, this will be a test run to see if I like to live overseas, if I like Europe, if I'll survive. And I loved it. I was like, all right, this is it. This is good. I'm ready for this. And then two people in particular reached out to me, Jenny Solis
Uh-huh.
and then Elise from my campus years, they both reached out to me. Jenny was on the Revive 4.0 team and was like, "Hey, David, I know you like Europe. You should do Revive." And then
Mm,
Elise was from university with me. And she's like, "David, I'm going to Europe. I know you've been. You should come back with me." And so between the two of them, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go on Revive. Let's see what this is about. And I mean, I love it. I fell in love with Revive immediately. I fell in love with everything that it's doing. And I'm just like, I can't imagine doing anything else. So,
wow.
That's awesome. And why did you fall in love with Europe and with Revive?
great questions. I think Europe as a whole, there's just so much culture out here. And then there's so much history. And then the people. The people are so amazing. My first experience in Eastern Europe was actually back in 2016 on a Hope Youth Corps in Croatia. And that's where I fell in love with it. And then from that moment, I was like, I got to come back at some point somehow. But the church in Croatia was just so loving and so embracing. And every time I came back to visit, they were always like, oh my gosh, David's back. Like they made me feel like the king of the world when I came. And it was so encouraging. And then when I got to meet other churches in Eastern Europe, it was just the exact same. It was encouraging and uplifting. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And then in terms of Revive in particular, I think the way that the Revive program works, the balance that is promoted of wants you to do step out of your comfort zone, but we want you to have time to recharge. We want to push you, but we want you to not be overwhelmed or burnt out. Like the balance was so amazing because I mean, I love our US churches and I love the campus mindset of go, go, go. But here on Revive, there is that idea of, hey, we need to get out there and go, but also, hey, make sure you're taking time with God first because that's so important. And make sure that you're doing fun activities yourself. Make sure you have some hobbies that you're doing. And so I love the balance that Revive has and how they just support all the missionaries and the, if you will, the work life balance that is promoted here.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's thanks for sharing, bro. I think you're fitting into Eastern Europe really well. I remember when we were in Romania and Jenny was like, I've got this guy, his name's David. that he loves Croatia. Like he loves Croatia. And she was telling Sean, and Sean was like, yeah, I mean, message him, I guess. Yeah, why not? And then now to get to know you and to see you and to see your love for the Eastern Europe and the people here, it's pretty spectacular. So
I appreciate that.
thanks for answering the call.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you, just since you've been on Revive, I know you've seen a lot of people come and study the Bible, and you've met the members in the church. How would you describe the ways that you've seen God move on being on Revive?
Yeah. I think the biggest way I've seen God move and revive is through the Kingdom Kids, honestly. I remember last year coming on 5.0, and even before we got to Sophia, I remember us going through the list of the church. I remember them saying that, this church has a lot of Kingdom Kids that have stopped coming to church. And being a Kingdom Kid, I'm like, gosh, that hurts. That hurts a lot. And so my mindset was immediately like, I'm going to connect to these guys. I'm going to make them love God. I'm going to do something to show them something new. And so I remember us praying for the church and honestly praying for the Kingdom Kids to come back. And the thing that how I saw God move on Revive really is through them. I remember us coming to Sophia and landing. I remember us having some of our first Sundays. And, it was true. A lot of the Kingdom Kids have decided to step back and not come out. But one Kingdom Kid, Chris, was like, you know what, let me give it a shot. And he came out, he met Jordan and Jordan and I got to study the Bible with Chris. And at first, with those first few studies, I could just tell on Chris's face, I'm just doing this because they asked me. I don't really
Mm,
care about this. Like, I was like, I know this look because I had this exact look when I was studying the Bible as a teen. But then something switched in Chris's mind, and he's like, no, actually, I really like these studies. I really want to know God. And then Chris was one of our first baptisms in the
mm,
church. And that was such a groundbreaking moment. I remember so many people sharing about Chris and sharing about
Mhm.
his father. And I remember even like some of the members like tearing up because of this like surreal moment. Like, this is incredible. And then not long after Chris, Colleen also started coming back to church and studying the Bible. And then not too long after, I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, Colleen got baptized. And that was also a huge win for the church. And that was a huge momentous occasion because this church now saw two of their kids that grew up just come back to the church and come
right.
back to loving God. And I'm continued to be encouraged by both of them, just with the battles that they're fighting, even to this day, how they're fighting for their faith, how they're fighting for their relationship with God, and how they're just loving God on such a deep level. So,
Wow. Well, thanks for explaining that. And I think I've seen Chris and Colleen, and they are honestly, yeah, like inspiring for me. It's not easy to be a high schooler, really trying to follow God, and they've done a great job. And I know you and Jordan really poured into them during those Bible studies. And it's clear that God clearly sent you guys at the right time. And so
mhm,
well done for that.
appreciate that.
Is there anything else you wanted to share too? Or was that the
I mean, yeah, I mean, I see God, the number of stories and the number of ways I see God continuously move is incredible. I mean, t- I think of the other first convert that we had here is Olia, and she just found us through Instagram. And it's incredible because it's cool to see that 21st century technology can be such an amazing tool. Like, I know we hear so much negativity about social media and technology and how it's the devil's trap, but it's cool to see how we can use that to do the complete opposite and promote God and reach out to communities. And it's incredible to see people that come out because of Instagram and because of social media, and to see the outreach that social media can have and how we can utilize that for God. Yeah. The only other way that I've really seen God move is, I think, even with our most recent convert, Nadia.
Mhm.
Luba was baptized, if I'm not mistaken, on the first revive back in
Yes,
Odessa.
that's right.
And to see that that was back in 2020 and now it's 2026. And so 6 years, this seed has been planted and watered and prayed for. and it finally blossoms and blooms, and now Nadia's here. It's like that is what revival looks like sometimes. It takes years. You know, revival can be instantaneous, but revival can also take years and patience. And so that's just really encouraging.
For sure. It's like a good transition to our next question. I know that it's not your first revive
Mhm.
and you will keep doing it, right? Okay. So, what's been one big lesson for you so far on revive?
There's so many lessons I've learned since being on Revive and so many things that I would love to share. I think the biggest lesson though is trusting God through the hard times. And that's the lesson that I've been learning more this year than last year. I mean, just for full transparency, like here in Sofia, the beginning of when we came back after the new year, we had sort of a dry spell. And we were throwing everything at the wall. We were throwing out different events. We were reaching out. We were texting everyone. We tried crazy ideas, but it just seemed like nothing we did worked. And it seemed like for me as as the Revive team leader this year, I was mentally like, God, what have I done? Like, what sin did I commit against you? What have I done to get this wrath from you? Like, why don't you, like, is there any purpose here? And
Mm.
I remember just praying consistently, like, God, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm lost. Like, am I actually effective here? Did I take too much on my plate? But then later, we have an amazing teacher, Ed, who we all love so greatly. But Ed came into town, and I remember being able to get time with Ed. And the lesson that Ed taught, not just me, but the whole team, is like the wilderness and the deserts are when God really tests your faith. And
Mm.
I don't know why it didn't click before, but for me, that's when I just plethora of scriptures just came back. You know, I think of like Second Corinthians that talks about my grace is sufficient. You know, I'm made
Mhm.
strong in your weakness. All the proverbs that's talked about like trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. You know, like don't Philippians that talks about like don't be anxious. And all of this led to a interaction I finally had and on a subway. And me and Alex were reaching out on the metro. And I was just having one of those days where I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this. And I'm walking through the metro or on the metro, and I'm coming up to a little intersection and I need to pass these two guys. And they move along and I say thank you. And immediately they're like, oh, you have an American accent. Like, why are you here? Or where are you from? I'm like, "Oh, I'm from
Mm.
Texas." And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, why on earth are you in Bulgaria? And for me at this moment, I'm like, I want to get out of this conversation. I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm going to say missionary because no one wants to talk to a missionary. So I say, I'm a missionary. And they're like, really? And then they pull out their phones, and on their phones, one of them has a verse and one of them has a cross. And they're like, we love God. We want to talk about God with you. Like, can we talk with you
Wow.
about him? And I'm like, okay, yes, I can't say no. But that turned into such an amazing time because I was on the metro with them going to a stop. And then we got out, we were talking. One of them had to leave, but then the other was like, hey, like, can we keep talking? I want to hear more. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we get back on the metro, go the complete opposite way. And it was about 40-ish minutes together, and from there, I was able to share my story, he was able to share his story, we got to share about our lives, hobbies, and by the end of it, he's like, "I'm so grateful, like, you were on this metro, I'm so grateful God put us together, like, I wanna learn more, I wanna hear more about your life, I wanna hear more about what God's doing," and, at the end of it, I'm just like I mean, anyone that knows Sean's story knows of his interaction on the subway, and I'm like,
That's true.
there's nothing new under the sun. This is when God moves. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Amen, God. I appreciate you giving me this hope in the desert. So,
Yeah. Wow, it's such a faith building story. We definitely need to record it for our faith building stories. I mean, but yeah, I appreciate your openness and transparency that being a missionary, it's hard sometimes. And sometimes, it reminds me of that verse that God, I believe, but help my disbelief or
mhm.
lack of belief, right? So yeah, definitely. And I appreciate that you still, decided to tell that guy that you're a missionary and hopefully we'll see him one day as our brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well done, David. That's definitely listening to the Spirit and allowing Him to, just work through you, even in discouragement.
Mhm.
And that story just goes to show that, whenever you choose to not give up, you choose to be faithful, God will put you in positions where you can share your faith. And so even well done for saying I'm a missionary. I know they asked and you didn't really have much of a choice.
Yes.
And so as we wrap up here, for people who are listening, those who are maybe considering doing Revive or wanting to support Revive, what advice would you give to someone who's considering of applying for Revive?
Yeah. I would say do it. Just plain and simple, do it. I think one cool thing about Revive is it's like discipleship. You can't plan for it. When we all studied the Bible and when we all went through our journey of making Jesus Lord, as we were studying the Bible, there came a moment when we all realized what we did and that we need to be right with God. And there was no, let me wait for the right time. It was, oh my gosh, I'm wrong with God. I need to be right with God. Let me go fix that right now. In the same way, there's never going to be a right time to do Revive. There's never ever going to be a right season. And so I say, go and do it, because if you wait for the right time, that time will never come. Satan will always try to tell you a better time will come when you're self-supporting, when you have enough money, when you have this. Well, Satan tried to use those same lies when we became disciples. He said, wait until you're self-supporting. Wait until you have a job, a family. Wait until life gets less busy. The truth is, life doesn't become less busy. Life is always going to be busy. And so I think for us, the big question is legacy. As Christians, what is our legacy going to be? And for those that know, they will know. But for me, legacy is planting seeds in a garden that I'm never going to be able to see. And
Mm,
you know, I want to set up the next generation for the kingdom. I want to plant seeds now. And I think Nadia's story is such a testament to that. Luba got baptized, and 6 years later,
Mhm.
as I'm here on Revive, I don't expect to see, I mean, I expect to see some things happen, but I'm not just like, oh, if nothing happens, then it was all a waste. I know that the seeds I plant now may not bloom until long after I'm gone, but it's just leaving a legacy for the future and giving people that opportunity. And so, for anyone considering Revive, I say, come on and do it. Like, there is no better time than now. And for those that are like, I just don't know if I can, but I want to help support the mission, then I say, please do. We have amazing brothers and sisters from all over the world, and especially even locally here in Eastern Europe, that want to get into ministry, want to do Revive because they saw what Revive did for them and they want to join the team. And well, no, they need some help. And so if you have the means, then please feel free to donate.
Well, thanks for sharing your passion and conviction on
Mhm.
Revive. That's a beautiful answer. And I genuinely agree that you will definitely, at least by applying, you can figure out whether it's God's path for you. And I also agree with the thing about, you'll never find this perfect time.
Hmm.
Maybe it's worth
Mhm.
trying it. Yeah. Do you have
Yeah,
any
I
thoughts,
agree.
Ina? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it was beautifully said that actually we can leave a legacy, right? We can live this life to the full in a way that not selfishly, but helping other people to get to know God.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, David, for joining this podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for all
Yeah.
that you're doing in Sofia. I know the church they just love you. David is someone who cooks food for maybe everyone in the church at this point has eaten
Tacos nights.
A lot of taco
David's
nights.
food multiple times. So thank you so much for the way that you serve and give your heart. And thank you for loving the young people and preaching and setting up all the AV. You really, at least last year when I saw you, you were doing everything. I hope this year
Yes.
you're better delegating things. But thank you
Yeah.
for everything that you've done.
Of course.
Please say hi to the church. Miss
Absolutely.
them so much. Oh my gosh.
Will do.
Thank you for listening to the Revival podcast. If you found this episode helpful, then please subscribe and leave a review. Share this episode with someone who you feel could benefit from this. We pray that God will bring a spiritual revival to you, to the church, and to all the nations.